Hello, I am Rachel McDaniel, and today I want to share with you my final project, which is my portfolio. Now, before I begin, I want to explain to you who my imagined audience is. After graduation, I plan to pursue publication for my fiction works and with the hopes of getting a contract from a big five publisher. And so this portfolio is created with the imagined audience as an acquisition editor of a publishing house looking at my site. The site platform I chose is Google Sites because of its user friendliness as well as its functionality. So here's my header, it's my name and my title. And here is a picture of me that I imagined what could be on the back of the book. So that was my thinking with that. Here's my information, my email address, my embedded link to my LinkedIn profile, my university, my major and minor, as well as the micro credentials I have learned and gained along the way. A piece of advice that I received from the peer review is to include that I'm a published author in my header, and so I incorporated that advice. The next section is a creative writing journey. I wanted to give my imagined audience an overview of my professional, academic, and personal writing overview of my writing journey. And so I explain how I got my love of writing, how fiction has shaped my life, as well as mention my journey in Miami, how I attained soft skills, improved my communication, analytical research skills through the different courses that I've taken along the way. This next section is my achievements, growths, and goals. This first picture is all my published books through a traditional publisher. The content below, I talk about Miami, being on the president's list, and the soft skills that I've acquired, problem solving, analytical thinking. And then the next paragraph talks about my professional life as a writer. I explain a little bit about my published works, and then I include a link to Publisher's weekly review to one of my stories. And here that is. Click on that. There it is. That is a Publisher's weekly review, and that is, there we go. Um, and then my next section talks about growths over the course of the semester. For my training assignment, I took a course on digital marketing, which as an author in this digital age, having a social online presence, having an online presence is extremely important. And so I learned about digital marketing, about individual branding, and here is a link to my author website. There it is right there. And then my goals section, I want to take what I learned and improve my digital reach. So I include the data regarding how many accounts visited my site. And I have a goal of wanting to convert those accounts to actual and visits to actual followers. And here is an embedded link to one of my social media profiles. This next section is my professional documents, my career resume, my career documents, as well as the proposal and sample chapter. So here's my career document, my resume. Dr. Nunez's presentation on resumes really helped me wrap my head around resumes and realize what needs to be included, what does not need to be included. And so I took that information that he shared and was able to apply it to my resume. So here's my relevant skills, my experience as a writer, a freelance writer, ghostwriter, journalist, and my extracurricular activities as being a mentor coach to teens who want to be writers. Now, here's the next section is my sample proposal and chapters, but I made a page for that. There it is. And I tried to keep my headings and the color palette the same, so it would be the same across all pages. So here's a sample proposal and chapters. And with my imagined audience being an acquisition editor or from a publishing house, editors want to see proposals and sample chapters. So that's what I included in my portfolio. So here is a proposal for one of my romantic comedies that my agent submits to publishing houses. And so that my cover page, this is my title, as long as my hook, which is kind of like an elevator pitch. The next section is the short summary, basically what you would see on the back of a book is just that little tidbit about the story. And the next section is a synopsis, which is very important to include in a proposal because the publishing houses need to know your story. They need to know the plot twists, they need to know the characters, they need to know the theme, basically to make sure that your story is marketable. Speaking of marketing, that is the next section, which is very crucial in a proposal because they need to make sure that that publishing houses need to make sure that they can sell your book. So I included my target audience, talked about my social media presence, shared my links so it's all in one spot. Next is book comps, which is very important to include titles that are similar to your story. And so the publishing house can see if this story sold well, then your story would sell well. I also included a personal note from me. I don't always include these in my proposals, but this story is very meaningful to me. I touch on all abilities and inclusivity of those with disabilities as being a mom of a child with autism. This is a very important topic to me, and I wanted to explain the relevance in today's society, like why this story is needed. And then this last section is my author biography. Okay, and not only do publishing houses want to know about your story, they actually want to read your story. And so you have to include sample chapters, which I did here. This is the first 3 chapters of my romantic comedy. And this is important for publishing houses to see. They want to read, they want to see your voice. They want to see that there's a unique voice in your story that's engaging, and so that once they reach those final words in chapter 3, that they'll want to request your entire manuscript. So that is the sample chapters and the proposal, and that is my portfolio. So I want to thank you for the opportunity of being able to present this to you.